finding out that I was right on all of this stuff. Last workshop, I said she was talking.
Your hair? Your hair? Either one?
Now I do.
I've got that for you. Okay.
No, you don't have to sign it at once. I'm pretty sure you do.
Oh, for employees can't be.
Everything, because ours are signed.
To do that.
What's that?
My monthly board has to sign it once.
All right, it is 6:30, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Holton Lake Community Schools Board of Education to order. Can we have a roll call vote for members present, please?
Christian. Brown.
Here.
Jeske.
Here.
Souter.
Here.
Nichols. Here. Whittington.
Here.
Halliday.
Here.
All right, before we move into the pledge, I thought, given the events from this weekend, it would be appropriate just for us, before we move any further, just take a brief moment of silence for a particular young man from our community. Thank you, everyone.
All right, if you would, please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sir?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right, motion by Whittington, do I have support?
I'll support it.
Support by Brown. All in favor say aye with your raised right hand. Aye. All ayes, motion carries. Now we have the consent agenda in front of us.
I
Any
make a motion
changes
to approve the consent agenda
as presented?
as presented.
All right, motion by Nichols, do you have a support?
Support.
Support by Whittington. All in favor with your raised right hand. Aye. All ayes, motion carries. Brings us to student and staff recognition.
All right, thank you. First up, I'd just like to give a brief introduction to our new business manager through Core ISD, Carrie Macco. Carrie, give everybody a wave here.
Aye.
I know we've heard a lot about you, but it's our first time seeing you here as a board group. I told Carrie she'd be limited to 10 minutes for introductory speech. And, she was happy to hear it was a 10-minute one. Welcome, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And next, well, I'm excited about this one. I would like to recognize Griffin. Griffin's in the room, right? Give us a wave. And I'll give a shout out to Griffin, then I'm gonna let Griffin and the family talk a little bit. So, after the tragedy in Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, Griffin had a brainstorm, was talking to his mom, and said, you know, I think we ought to maybe do something, right? I think we ought to do bracelets for those students down there. And then his sister, the next morning, Sloan, heard about it. She got excited, and I think it grew from there. And then I think it spread to a particular grade, and it might have spread then beyond that grade, and I think it even spread school-wide, but I'm not gonna ad-lib anymore. I'm gonna let you take it away from here, Griffin. Tell me how this worked. I'm excited.
Do you want to stand up or do you want to stay here? Okay. You can want me to start? Okay.
Ms. Gross, you wanna help us out?
Yeah,
All right.
I'm gonna be helping, I guess.
Good deal.
So yeah, initially we thought about maybe painting rocks, but then we thought shipping them that far would be quite an expense. And so we brainstormed another idea and came up with the bracelets, or they could also use them as backpack tags. And so if you want to show them, Griffin, we did them in their school colors.
Nice.
So Sloan, do you remember their school colors?
Maroon, white, and black.
Yep, maroon, white, and black. So all students K6 made a bracelet or a backpack tag, some braided.
Some knotted.
Quadruple knotted.
Mm-hmm.
There were ones that you can just tie at the end.
Yep, and some had buttons. So we ended up with a variety. Some of them we had beads as well. We ordered maroon, black, and white beads. Do you want to tell them about those?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
We put the bracelets in here so we can ship them easier.
Oh,
So they
that's
each
so
had their own
awesome.
box, and the
Oh,
kids
cool.
decorated the boxes. And then what else was in there?
We all wrote little notes for them, like stay strong, stuff like that.
Your
Wow.
name.
Wow, what a heartfelt
signed
message.
them?
That is awesome.
Yeah, Griffin signed a couple things.
Yep, and then we were short a few because that second through fourth grade school had 600 students and we only have about 570, 560, I think. Kinsey, good thing she was here, along with a couple other of her girlfriends, and we had a couple other sixth grade students that made multiple amounts of bracelets to make up for the shortcoming of that. So, and then we shipped them, and then who called us?
7 and 4 News.
And they came and interviewed them, and they were on the news, and they happened to be at school that day. So Kinsey and Tarquin and Hadley, was that it?
Yeah.
Yep, they were all on the news.
You were a little bit in there, maybe.
I was in the background, and I'm just fine being in the background. So,
Even Mom was on.
I thought you were next week.
so,
Well, Griffin, on behalf of the board and the district, I'm at a loss for words how proud I am. This is just a heartfelt gesture that obviously started in your household and then grew maybe to the grade, and then boom, pretty soon it's school-wide, and what a kind thing to do. And I know the students in Texas are just super touched, and that's a tribute to your, you're just being a real understanding human being and a fine young man, so I'm very
Thank you.
proud of you.
and I just want to add that we have we're trying to get like a PTO back up and running called Friends of Collins, and they're actually reimbursing for the cost of everything.
Good.
So.
Awesome.
Before we move on, would you mind maybe dropping those off, like a couple of samples
Here.
and passing
Oh,
them around?
yeah.
And that way you can, at the end of the meeting, you can pick them up down here.
They'll get them back.
I see what there's pop inside.
That's great, thank you. We'll do a quick show and tell, and you can have them back here in just a minute. All right. Well, I'm very happy that it went so well, and I'm also thrilled that Up North Live 7-4 came and gave you some coverage there, and really was kind, really was good.
Yes.
Wow. So I'm not a bracelet maker. How long does it take to do one of these?
Depends how good you are at braiding.
That's a great answer. It would take me many minutes, much longer than
That's
you.
kind of what we realized when we got into it a little bit further. Like, I mean, my daughter can braid at first grade, but that doesn't mean everybody can braid. And
Right.
the more we thought about it, some needed, beads, and some could
Some
braid.
people could just let it go, just put them on.
Yeah, some just put them in a straight line and tied each end. So it ended up being a variety, which made it neater. And to see all the boxes decorated uniquely was like one of the coolest parts, I think, when they were all in the box. And
Very kind.
Griffin, do you think you could break Mr. Williams' hair?
Now that would be a trick. That would be a trick. Good stuff. Well, this was one of my more fun recognitions, so thank you again. Very, very good. Good stuff.
and we're gonna scoot out. We gotta get to West Branch for a baseball game.
Okay,
Sir, nice seeing you.
Thank you.
good job.
Thank you.
Bye, Kenzie.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to superintendent report.
All right, I know we just, through our consent agenda, hired some new staff. As I look around the room, I think I only see one of the 5 we just hired, and that would be Amanda. Amanda, welcome back. I know you're excited to be here. We're excited to have you and wish you a smooth start to the school year. Hope your summer transition goes well. Very good, very good. Welcome. All right, I'm gonna give a quick update from where we left off last year, last meeting, talking about the state budget. And since then, that budget's been settled through a bipartisan effort with the governor and both houses of Congress there. They really passed an impressive budget. Hats off to Governor Whitmer and the entire Congress for really coming together and putting together one of the more impressive school aid budgets in recent memory. I say that because in addition to a per pupil increase of $450, which affects just about every district in the state, for the first time, they actually created a budget that has categoricals, so differential funding for different groups of kids. And this is something that superintendents and principals and educators through our associations have been asking for decades, and they finally did it. And so what they have recognized and what we've been saying is that depending on your population, if you have a higher or a lower percentage of students in career tech ed, it costs more money to educate students who are in a career tech ed pathway because you're buying wood, metal, welding rods, gas, all the materials that are consumables in a career tech ed field. Same thing applies to special education. If you have a higher percentage of students with IEPs, depending on those categories, it can cost more. You can have to hire a one-on-one aide or bring in other ancillary supports, or certainly for severe and profound students, you might even need a Hoyer lift or wheelchairs, those kind of things. And so what the state has realized and finally done, which I'm super excited about, is they've created categorical funding for things like career tech ed, for things like special ed. So based on a per pupil count for every district in the state, we will receive additional funds above and beyond that 450. So however many kids we have in career tech ed, there's now a supplemental. In this case, it'll flow through the ISD to support our career tech ed programs there, but then our kids benefit from it. For special ed, that will flow directly to us in state aid payments. There's also a new line item for mental health services support and another line item for school safety. And so these are additional line items on top of that $450. So super excited about how all that's going to play out. It's brand new, so I know I and other superintendents have asked questions around, tell us a little more about the funding parameters. You know, what does school safety mean? Can I fill a pothole in a parking lot so someone doesn't roll an ankle, or is it just for in the building upgrades, that kind of thing? So we're waiting to hear more about how those dollars have to be spent, but super excited about that. Elections messaging, I sent all our staff and families an operational millage election letter with a reminder to make sure to go vote August 2nd. As the budget presentation indicated, passing the millage on the 2nd will return to 18 mills. The amount the district's able to collect by the agendas over there was the handout, or is a handout that was the same letter that I emailed home. And that will help us with that 18 mills return to our full collection and make sure we're able to fully fund our programs. And as a reminder, this millage is levied against non-homestead properties and local businesses and does not affect your typical homeowner or renter. As has been demonstrated many times, a strong and stable school district helps strengthen and increase property values. Board member candidate filing deadline is fast approaching. That is coming up in July the 26th. So there is a signature option or a $100 fee filing option. Those forms are available at County Clerk's Office, Roscommon County. So if you know anyone who you believe will be a good fit for the board and has a true interest in what's best for Houghton Lake and our deserving students and staff, encourage them to make sure they go fill out the paperwork. Summer projects update. We have done an experiment. We know that next year, when all the major ESSER projects are scheduled to take place, one of those is new flooring to replace all of that old 1970s, 70s show carpet that exists in this building, and a lot of the old broken tiles. So under ESSER funds, we're not allowed to tear out old carpet and put in new carpet, and we're not allowed to tear out old tile and put in carpet. We can only put in tile or do polished concrete. So I asked DM Burr to experiment on a room in this building. They ripped out the old carpet and they've been using a scrubber to see if they can remove the old hardened glue and get it down to a nice pure smooth concrete to see how smooth that finish is. I know you've been in Walmarts and other big box stores that have a nice polished concrete floor. That is an option. ESSER funds are able to fund something like that. While it's not tile, there are some pros and cons. You might have a little bit more cost up front, but certainly in the long run there is almost no cost for that big summer upkeep. We would certainly not be waxing, buffing, and polishing large areas of square footage of tile. So we're going to check it out. I'm not sold either way. I want to see what that ends up looking like, and we can take pictures and maybe present it here. Certainly we're a year away from that work happening, so nothing needs to be decided tonight, but did want to let the board know and the community know that we're going to be experimenting with a kind of a buffed, polished concrete in one of the rooms to see how it shapes out. One of the things, we did this in a district I used to work, and depending on how long that tile's been down, sometimes even when you buff it off and get the glue off, you see ghosting of the lines where the tile used to be. So, we'll see how it turns out. You don't know till you finish it. We're also doing thorough room cleaning, air filter replacements in all the univents. Doug and George have been taking out all the univent blower motors and taking them out back with the air hose and cleaning those off and re-oiling everything. We've been doing maintenance on the well system, looking into that for this building, and taking care of some dead tree removal. We have plans for that. We have quite a few, one large one, if you came to the craft fair, there's a great big, I think it's an oak, right in the middle of that property out front by the library. And that thing is dead, and hate to see that fall or drop a big branch on somebody. So we'll be working with some tree removal folks to take care of some of the dead lumber. Summer school update, we're 4 weeks down, 2 weeks to go. We still have 18 students here participating. We started with 29. 11 are done and off and enjoying their summer. Weeks 3 and 4 saw many more students recognized for perfect attendance. Course completion is still running high. 43 courses have been successfully completed from the 70 attempted. That's 61% with 2 weeks to go. We're extremely proud of the students who put in a lot of hard work, and hopefully they finish strong. Our remaining students who are here plugging away are a blend of those finishing like 1 credit recovery class and a couple who are taking some extra classes, one as many as 5. So great job to our summer school kids and all their hard work. And that is the update.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Williams. We don't have anything for action items tonight. Do we have any discussion items tonight?
I had thrown one out for the board to talk about, and I'll just kick it off. After the last meeting and the discussion came up about the pros and cons of 1 meeting a month versus 2. Boards are required to hold 1 meeting a month by law. You can hold 2, you can hold 3, you can hold 4, you can hold as many as you want. Most boards do 1 or 2. Some things to think about if you do 2 is you typically have your business meeting and then you try to have a presentation or a workshop on your workshop meeting. That's kind of the model we have. For boards that just have 1 meeting, and there's some districts around us that just do the 1, typically they either do a work study meeting like a breakfast where they don't take action, they may just sit down and look at an issue and get together, which really, if you look at it that way, it's a published meeting, it's a second meeting. But it's usually at an odd time. Or they have adjusted their policies to allow the superintendent to hire officially employees, which they then affirm at the next meeting. Because if we went to 1 and there was a 3-week gap between when we were trying to hire someone and the next meeting's not for 3 more weeks, and we're trying to move quickly, then you would need that ability to move quickly. Otherwise, you're just calling a bunch of special meetings. So I've checked with some districts around us. One district to the north does it that way, and what they do is they allow the superintendent to officially hire candidates up to the administrator, director, coordinator level that the board then will just affirm at the next meeting. Other districts require the superintendent, if this model were to be something the board wanted to look at, the superintendent would notify the board, let's say in a weekly update or in a memo, hey, in the next week, I'm going to be trying to finalize the hires for the following positions. Here are the 3 candidates that are the top people in these positions. I'm going to send these names out to you. And that way the board gets a preview look at who those people are before the superintendent officially does anything, makes an offer. Because sometimes, board members, of course, being, veterans of the community might know something about somebody that a background check might not reveal. So there is still a way to have a quasi check and balance in that way, rather than the process we're doing. The other option is to leave it exactly as we're doing. Because this, again, I don't want you to hear that I'm leaning one way or the other. I'm completely indifferent. I'm going to be here if it's 1 meeting, if it's 2 meetings, if it's 3 meetings, doesn't matter to me. So just wanted to kick it off with a little bit of background there, and because it came up at the end of the last meeting, give the whole board an opportunity just to chat about it.
Who wants the opening comment?
I don't have a whole lot to say because I don't have a lot of time left, but I can say in the 6.5, 7 years I've been here, I guess if there was going to be anything, I would continue with 2 a month during the school year and 1 a month during the summer.
Yeah.
But
That's kind
that's-
of what we followed before, I think before this year.
Yeah, and really recommendations to hire, I know with the previous superintendent, I mean, they're hired by you.
Right.
Are you
We're just
currently
approving.
not allowing them to work until we approve it?
So the hire is always a provisional offer until the board affirms it under the current model. So when we say, you're the top candidate, here's your paperwork, we're gonna start the process, the candidate knows that until the board votes that through, it's a contingent offer on board approval.
Okay, because I thought we were doing it another way, and maybe we were with the previous superintendent, we were allowing them
To work.
to work.
And we do have language in, I think it's 3120 is the board policy that
Mhm.
allows the superintendent to hire within a 30-day window until the board then visits that hire.
Correct.
But the board still has to visit that hire.
Correct.
And if the board says no, then it goes the other direction. So it's still a contingent hire. It still requires your action.
Correct.
Right, it still requires,
Yeah.
it's just they're able to start because you.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Because sometimes you have to move quickly.
Absolutely.
Even if you have 2 meetings, sometimes even 2 is not quick enough.
That's what we ran into.
Mhm.
Yeah, so again, as far as I'm concerned, 2 meetings is working fine, but Julie, you bring up an interesting point. The times that it has maybe been challenging is when the busyness of the summer hits, when the workload kicks up for certain folks, and it's harder to get a quorum. It might be easier during the winter, so, and again,
Like I said, I won't be
Yeah.
here, so I'm just saying what's worked in the past.
So on the other side of the coin, we've had our 2 board meetings a month, we may be throwing a special one in there to end up being 3.
right,
We've had some, and I'm not disagreeing, as the 2-1 work, it does, but we have had some meetings where we've attended, and 8 minutes later, we're
Really?
gavelled and we're done.
Like
Right.
today.
Okay?
short
Today.
agenda.
So, a short agenda, so I would almost be more likely to say 1 a month, where we know it's filled to the brim with a to-do list, our things, our agenda, the whole 9 yards. If we have to have a special one, obviously you're gonna say, hey guys, this has gotta happen.
Absolutely.
We throw that into the mix. If we throw in hey, we're gonna have a breakfast or whatever, it's still a public invite,
Right,
and we do that. And just from my perspective, I travel, if I know I'm at 1 a month, I know when that calendar looks like, my schedule's much easier to adjust in that world.
And there may be months when you look at our calendar of things that have to be done. There may need be a few months through the year that you do 2 meetings, the rest of them could be 1 meeting. Like, I mean, you can definitely tell that by what needs to be done by our calendar.
Moving forward, I would recommend the once a month, but that's just me, and I don't wanna
I agree, I think
speak on behind.
coming
you know,
in and we
somebody
would have been
sitting in
done
the spot soon.
10 minutes ago, that's 15 minutes.
On the flip side, we've also had meetings go until like 10:30.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, it's all kind of variable, I think.
But that's a pretty,
The only part we.
doesn't
You
happen
have
very
time.
often, so,
We haven't had that many.
no.
From my perspective, it's not the length of the meeting, it's the transparency, first of all, for the community.
So it's all
And-
there.
And the other element is, this is probably the first year that meetings have, for me, as a board member, have run so efficiently that we've had 7-minute meetings, or shorter meetings. So I really have appreciated how we had business on one, and we've been doing more work study, more issues, bringing staff in to do presentations on the alternate meeting. I think that's also important for the community too. And they're used to every other Monday at 6:30. I'm not saying, because we've always done it that way, I'm just saying it's an established way of knowing, if you wanna find out what's happening in the community, you know where we are and when we're gonna meet.
I'm gonna kind of build off that, Paula, because it brings something to my attention that, I'm not gonna say that it frustrated me, but, I love the staff presentations. I absolutely love them. I do not love board members asking the staff questions that they're not gonna be, made aware of prior to. I think we should stick to asking the superintendent the questions versus the staff members. Because I feel like we put our staff on the spot, and the only person that has to answer to us is the superintendent. So while I love those presentations, I don't wanna lose what we once had, because at one point in the past few years, we've had staff presentations, and then we took away staff presentations, and then we slowly got them back, so I just wanna be careful with those.
Chauncey, you got anything to add on the meeting schedule?
I like Julie's first idea, taking some, one meeting a month during the summer. I mean, here we are tying up some of our staff members' times right now, where they could be sitting on the beach or playing basketball or coaching basketball. So, same with Mark, everybody knows what, we're crazy during the summer. Along with yourself, Brian, I know how you were, so. I think it would fit our community better, as far as the future board members, just doing one meeting a month during the summertime, cause we're all, this is a tourist town, we're all busy. So,
Well, and maybe I
just
missed
my thought.
how many meetings we threw curveball at staff members. I don't think it's been too many.
No.
And normally they end their presentation with, do you have any questions? So, it is kind of, unless we completely go off topic of whatever they presented to us, I can't see us really, throwing a curveball that nobody would be, expecting, and obviously Superintendent Williams is always forefront with us. There's no right or wrong answer to any of this, by the way.
I'm gonna rein it back in for discussion, cause I think we're supposed to be hammering out details on the meeting schedule, not that that's not important. If we need to have further discussion on that, we can, but I think one thing at a time. How would the 2 meeting schedule in the winter during the school session to the 1 meeting during the summer look? Would we just approve that as a board, as a calendar meetings at the beginning of the year?
So if the board wanted to make a change, your next natural change is January, where you're gonna basically, approve everything. You're gonna do officer positions, you're gonna do your next calendar. You could make a change midstream, but then for folks who've already maybe, certainly folks in the community maybe planned on a certain meeting, then that's a change. So to me, it looks like the next opportune time is January to December, when you kind of approve that next calendar. So I could certainly, for an upcoming meeting, bring back a couple of draft calendars, one that would have a 2 and then 1 option, and then, one that maybe 3 options, one that's exactly what we're doing now, and then one that just runs 1 a month. With the understanding that if it's the 1, all 12 months, then there would probably be some specials, which, is what it is. But then also on that one, we would probably just, we'd have everything going on, we'd have the regular meeting and the presentation, so.
So, as far as how I'm looking at it, I like what Paula was saying, where we do 1 meeting where we do our business for the most part. It's business, front loaded with the business aspect, and then that work session where we can hear those reports and workshop things for us as a board too, I think is really important, which I think we have done that a little bit in the last year especially. I like the idea of doing the 2 meetings a month and keeping that model during the school times. And then in the summer, maybe scaling it back to the 1, if we have to call that special meeting. My problem is with, and this is me personally, if we go back to 1 and we schedule a bunch of special meetings, it's gonna be difficult to make everybody's schedules jive in that way. I think if it's on the calendar and we all know 2nd and 4th Mondays, we got a board meeting, that's great. Summertime, I don't know if we would pick the 2nd or the 4th, whatever one would work, but.
I think there's even some meetings during the school year that we know the 1's not necessary, or the 2 is not necessary.
Yeah, I think the month of December only has 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
But we get into spring break month, and we still have 2, do we really need
Right.
2?
And that'd be something to look at too.
Or do you hybrid it with every other month as a dual meeting? I
She
heard you
did
say that.
She did.
I think let's throw it back in superintendent's court.
Why don't I bring back some draft
Drafts,
numbers? Yeah,
and-
and then you all look at them. Again, we're not making any decisions, just wanted to throw it out there for discussion, and I can bring maybe 4 versions, we'll throw the hybrid in there, and certainly if we're already doing one in the month of December and then we've got the spring break, right, think about that, makes sense, so. I'll bring
And
some,
just come on back,
I'll bring
since
some.
you're thinking that way.
I'll bring some drafts.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Nothing, okay. Okay, any board member comments? Hearing none, just quickly on the board calendar, no new changes since our June 14th board meeting. And I believe that wraps up our business this evening. We are adjourned, 7 o'clock on the dot.
Amanda, welcome.
Welcome, Amanda, yeah.
I was like ready to leave it for an hour.